award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. We're glad you're tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We've got a fun show for you today. It's going to be a knockout because we're talking punching, right?
We are. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Yeah, the Punch-Out. We're punching today. Mr. Jason Holland is back with us, and he actually welcomed us into his man cave. Recently, we did another show here, and we talked frogging. Now we're talking punching. But should be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. It's that time of year as we're getting closer. You know, we kind of started on that downhill slide of summer. That grass in the lakes, hydrilla milfoil, it's that time to grow, top out. And, man, it's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun. We're going to talk all about it today.
Well, I'm excited to learn more about this. We got all the gear here laid out. We'll talk about the rods and the reels and the baits and the hooks and the sinkers and the whatever.
Yeah, we're going to cover it all.
The line, etc. So, hey, I just want to remind everybody, keep watching, keep tuning in. Don't forget to like us and share us and click the bell if you watch us on YouTube and all that fun stuff. Subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting platform. That's what we're out here trying to do. Get the information to you, so the more you subscribe, the more you like, the more people see it, the more you see it. Wow, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, it would be awesome. Make it all worthwhile.
Yeah, so, more Jason Holland. You can't get any better than that.
Well, I mean, it's funny. My wife says she gets plenty of me.
Okay,
but maybe the general public can handle a little bit more.
Hey, they love the fishing tips. We've seen some good reports, had some good comments that they love these tips, these tricks, these segments with you. So I appreciate you coming and doing it with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the whole point of it is, I mean, hey, it's fun to go fishing. But after a while of fishing, you're ready to do some catching. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's a great thing about what we're doing here is just, again, trying to give you some tips. And fishing, and I said when we first got together, I mean, fishing is a lot like golf. It's one thing, you never learn it all. I mean, There's always something more and more you can learn. And that's why it's such a great sport, because you're always learning something. There's always different tricks and tips and ways that you can do it. And what's great about it, not only here in the great state of Tennessee, but across the country, there's a lot of great lakes that you can go and fish, and takes the same tips that work here, work all the way across the country. So
yeah,
I appreciate you having me in. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
We get to laugh and have a good time, and hopefully talk about fishing, and Todd yells at me and cuts me out of anything that I say stupid. Thank God he's got that edit button. He can make me look better. So today we're going to talk punching.
Well, you mentioned technology. I want to hit that real quick. You didn't mention technology. You mentioned golf. Technology has changed golf. Technology has changed fishing. There's a lot of things that evolve and times change. Things are new. There's new things you can try. It's always a spot to learn something new.
Well, there is, and it's always evolving. Yes, it's the same basic concept. We take a hook, we take a bait, or some type of lure, throw it out, and convince the fish to bite, even though it's not real. Or again, if you're live bait fishing, but there's something about that just taps into our overall genetic makeup and our DNA that just it's fun to do. It's enjoyable. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can be super old. You can be super young. Anywhere in between. There's just something about fishing. And so as technology increases, it allows us to be better, quicker, faster, more efficient. Different materials make it not as hard. For instance, I'm a big fan of cash and fishing rods. And they use carbon fiber. Yeah. I mean, the rod is made out of carbon fiber, so it's super strong and super light. So I can fish all day and not be nearly as exhausted as before when I use a heavier rod, because that's all the technology that we had. And so you look at hooks, you look at sharpnesses, and just everything that goes around it. I mean, we can get out here in the weeds, and we can literally talk about just weights, fishing weights for hours.
Yeah, I mean the materials they use and how it changes. And
going from lead to tungsten and just the coatings they put on it. It goes on, and that's what I love about it. You can never get bored. Now, again, I got it pretty. I will admit, I got it pretty bad. I mean, I got the addiction, the passion.
I see your wall of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I love to do, right? Yeah. And so everybody has their different passion. But what's great about fishing is that you don't have to go and dive all in as deep as I am to out and enjoy it. Some of the greatest times I had as a kid, my grandpas were birthed into fishing, but not nearly as deep as I was. We go crappie fishing sitting on the bank, and those times are some of the greatest memories I have with them. And it wasn't about catching. Yes, we caught some fish, and that was fun. It was just having that experience with my grandfather outside, outdoors, and that's really what this whole show is about, is teaching and those guys that are going out fishing, how do we help you catch some more so you can, again, incorporate that whole process with your kids or with, what's great? You can go find maybe an unfortunate or a less blessed person that maybe doesn't have a father or a grandfather. Mm-hmm. Bring them in. Take them fishing. Again, it's always, when you go fishing, you're building those bonds. Yeah. That's why country singers sing about it all the time.
I like to say pass it on. So
got
pass on what you love and share it with others. Yeah.
Country singers sing about it all the time. About it's more than just fishing, or she just thinks we're all those different things.
Yeah.
And it's just the act of spending time together outdoors, which is what we love to do. And that's why I love being part of doing this with the TWRA, because you guys are the outdoors.
That's what we do. That's what Tennessee Wildlife. It's what we do.
It's what we. It's what we do.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. So,
and then we're doing more and more of. We're always doing the biology and the studies and the work that goes there, but we're trying to do more. Here's how to get out there. Here's how to do it. And showing people how to get out there.
Yeah. Well, that education piece is so important. Just because there's so many new people. But you take what happened in 2020. Everybody got stuck at home, and so everybody's like, "Hey, if we're stuck, we're quarantined. Let's go outdoors. Be safe, do the stuff, but we can be outside."
Yeah.
And so everybody's a strong word. A lot of millions of people across the country went outside,
many.
And now it comes to, how do I get it from going out and enjoying it? But now let's take the game up another step and actually start catching some more fish, giving some new techniques and new ideas that they may not have thought of. And that's what I love about what the TWRA is doing is, hey, we're not just going to do what we normally have done. Now we're going to try to educate, the license holder, and brings a whole nother level and dimension of what you guys do. So.
All those guys that jumped in it for the first time, they're learning on their own, or we're going to try to show them how to do it.
Yeah, we're just going to be another layer. Again, there's a lot of great information out there, and never downplay it. We'll just be another layer, or ultimately another resource that they can go to and check it out. So today we're going to talk about punching.
Yeah, so you got the punch rod here, so I'm excited to hear how all this works together.
Yeah, so we'll...
and you said this was your favorite.
This is by far, hands down, my favorite. Now, I got to put a caveat in, because every time I say that, like frog fishing, this is my favorite.
Frogging, punching, trogging.
Yeah, they're right. Everything bass fishing, I'm in. But if someone put a gun to my head and said, Jason, you can only fish for bass one certain way the rest of your life, it would be what we're about to talk about right now.
Okay.
And so let me tee that up real quick when I talk about punching. Punching is different than flipping. All right, and they're very similar in how you go about it. It's just it's a different area when you're doing the technique. So I'll give you a couple of examples. We're based out of Nashville, and so we use Old Hickory as a point of reference quite a bit.
Yeah.
Old Hickory has a lot of call it river grass, bank grass, water willow, a lot of different terms. But basically, it is the aquatic vegetation that's growing. Let's just say 3 to 4 feet, maybe even more off of the shore, off the bank line. And that is where you'll do pitching. And that what pitching or flipping means is that when you do that, you're having open water that you're putting it into. Even though you got all this water willow and you got all these sprigs of it sticking up, you're still taking it and you're flipping that bait into the actual water, even though it's surrounded by a bunch of water willow or bank grass.
Okay.
That's considered flipping. Where punching is different is, imagine all of that had grown up, laid over, and kind of grown a flat mat across it. Punching is when you're actually legitimately punching a weight and a lure through something that's matted.
Okay.
That is when we talk punching, just for reference, that is what we're referring to. Now, it can be a couple different things. So we're going to really focus on today talking about the matted hydrilla and matted milfoil that happens a lot on the TVA lakes, which, by the way, Old Hickory now has some hydrilla growing in it.
Okay.
So this technique may, in a few years, be a valid option on a place like Old Hickory. And
this is the Nick and the Chick?
This is Nick and Chick. So this is Nick and Jack and Chickamauga on the TVA, and it's full of grass, full of hydrilla and milfoil. And what happens is, over the summer, that grows and grows and grows, and then it will break the surface, and it will then fall over, and it will continue to grow across the top of the surface. And so what happens is it forms. Just imagine that you look across as far as you can see, and it looks almost like your backyard. It looks that's how matted up it gets, and these big, massive grass mats, and they grow on typically the flats in the creeks and on the river channel. And so you'll have, when I say miles, legitimately you'll have miles of grass mat, and it may be 200, 300, 400 yards deep, just depending on. But it's where it's come out, it's grown up, laid over, grown together. And now you've got just literally it's a matted grass. And that's really what we're going to be referring to today when we talk about punching. But it doesn't just have to be, punching doesn't have to be just that scenario. So, for instance, log jams. Back at creeks, you have a bunch of logs or a bunch of just debris has got together and made a big mat of junk. Perfect place to punch through. Okay. And what happens is it creates a canopy. So bass in general love to be underneath something or be in shade.
Cooler.
Cooler, but they want something over their head.
Okay.
Right? They feel more protected, especially largemouth. Smallmouth, not as much. Largemouth, 100%. They want something over their heads. That's why a lot of times you'll catch them underneath docks. You'll catch them underneath overhanging limbs. You'll catch them.
And that's kind of flipping under there, right?
You got it.
You could punch under there, right? Could you?
Well, you could, but typically it's going to, again, that would be a more flipping scenario because you're not having something that you're punching through. But bass want something over their head. So those matted areas, back of creeks, back of pockets, that just Arkansas, for example, has a tendency. A lot of trees will decay and break down, and they'll get blown into the back of these currents. And so there's actually a whole technique on lakes in Arkansas, and where guys go and they flip these big log jams. And we have some of that here, not as much. Old Hickory will have some, but there's a whole technique around punching through these log jams. And so that's really the technique is you got something flat, matted up, or compressed on top of the surface of the water.
Gotcha.
And you're punching through that to get down to these bass that are just sitting there. To your point, yes, it's cooler. It gives them great shade. It's something over their head. They feel protected. They feel comfortable. And what else happens? The bait loves that too. And so the bass can sit there all nice and comfortable, and the bait literally will be coming to them. So it's a great way to take a big rod, big weight, punch through there. Man, it's kind of like frogging what we talk. It is full contact bass fishing.
That was my question. It's the same kind of grass that you're frogging on, right?
Exactly. It's the same exact area where you be throwing a frog. Excuse me, but.
So now you're going under.
You got it. So here's really a breakdown what I'll do. So early in the mornings, I will start off, I'll be throwing the frog, right? So everything's more active. They've been feeding over the night, and so the bass are more inclined to be looking up, right? And so that frog coming across the mat is really good. Goes on later in the day, sun's super high, scorching down. Those bass have a tendency to go closer to the bottom. And so those bass will stage typically in three areas underneath the mat. They'll be on the very bottom, they'll just be suspended in the middle, or they will be sitting with their backs right up against the bottom of that mat. And it'll just be you as the angler's responsibility to figure out where they're at. And we'll kind of talk about that as we get into punching. But the point of it is that once they quit hitting that top water, I'm going down in there, I'm going to get them, and I'm going to drag them out.
Real quick, you said bottom, middle. What's bottom? 6 feet, 10 feet?
Again, it'll be strictly relative to where you're fishing. Okay. So I'll give you an example. So bottom at, we'll say, Chick. So if we're fishing that river channel, that bottom could – and so you got the channel, which is, let's just say, 35 to 40 foot deep. And so we just got kind of this bowl, and then on the sides it comes up, and then it's got these flats. Right, so you got the river channel where the barges go down, and then you have these shallower areas because they come in and dredged out or whatever, and that's where that grass is going to grow. And that could be, I've seen it from as shallow on those areas as 2 foot.
Okay.
And I've seen it deep. Nickajack's a prime example because it's a pretty deep, especially up by Raccoon Mountain going up into Chattanooga. That can be 12 to 15 foot deep.
Okay.
So deep or bottom is all going to be relative based on where the grass is at.
Gotcha.
So again, it's just you as you're fishing, and we'll kind of talk about how you'll know where they're at based on how they bite. But that's really one. And here's the great thing: once you get them dialed in and figured out where they are, typically, unless you have something change throughout the day, big current flow, big weather change, for the most part, they're going to be doing that most of the time. So if you catch them when you first punch in, and as soon as it goes through the mat, boom, they instantly grab it. You know that they're sitting up on it goes through and it's in 10 foot of water, but as soon as it breaks the grass mat, they bite it. You know that they're hanging up near the top.
Quick bite.
Yeah, and so if he goes all the way to the bottom, and as soon as it gets to the bottom, you get bit, obviously, they're hanging at the bottom. And then if you take it and you're kind of yo-yoing it, which we'll talk about the action, and they hit it when you kind of bring it up, you know that they're suspended there in the middle. So wherever they're at in those three stages, they're going to pretty much stay there. And then if they quit biting, then later on that day, then you have to refigure them out. But once they kind of get dialed in, they're in. So let's talk gear real quick because we got
Sure.
We got to get to it. We got a bunch to go through.
I'm excited to hear how this works.
All right, so we talked about rod and reel. This is a 7 foot 10 inch, actually 7 foot 11. Big beefy rod designed strictly for punching by Cash and Rods. John Crew series literally says punch rod on it.
Punch rod.
It's what it's designed for. 100% made here in the United States. Why I love Cash and Fishing Rods. Won't do a commercial for them, but go check them out on their website.
Yeah.
Lew's Super Duty reels. We've talked about this reel in the past. I'm a big fan of Lew's. Super Duty means everything's beefed up gears. It's designed for that hard, full contact drags. I think a 20-pound drag. Designed for this specific technique.
Full contact punching.
Full contact punching, full contact frogging. And we also use braided line. And so we'll kind of talk about real quick about the braided line.
Here's the braided you had on
you,
display here.
Yeah.
65 pounds. Is that 65, what you're going through?
That's typically where I stay for frogging and for punching.
Okay.
You can go up to 80. You can go down to 50. I don't recommend that if you're punching. You want 65 or higher. I'm a braid guy. One of my fishing partners, actually, you know pretty well, Mike Parsley, who works at TWRA.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Mike.
Oh, Mikey.
Yeah.
Mike likes to fish. Mike's had a different concept. He doesn't want to punch with braided line. He likes to punch with 25-pound fluorocarbon. To him, he feels like he gets more bites.
Who catches more fish, though?
All
Bites doesn't mean fish in the
So
boat.
here's what I'm going to say is go back to the tournament results that Mike and I fished the same tournament when we're both punching, and we'll let the tournament results speak for themselves.
Okay.
All right, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds, so Mike, I love you. That's all I'm saying. The tournament, the paperwork will speak for itself.
Okay.
But 65-pound braid, you need it because you're horsing on them. You're going to hit them pretty hard. So I'm a Suffix 832 guy. 65-pound braid. Use whatever brand you like.
Hey, will you break down 832? What's that mean? Or does it mean?
I have no idea what 832 means.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has something. Well, you know what? If I would shut up and read the box, 832 stands for 8 braided fibers and 32 weaves per inch.
Okay.
So, Todd, you're going to need to edit that out so I don't look stupid. And I knew exactly what 832 meant. All right. Yeah, here we go. That's
well,
why
it's got to mean something.
That's why Todd's back there.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this line since it came out years ago.
Yeah.
But again, use whatever you want to. As long as it's 65-pound to 80-pound, you're going to be great. So that was the rod and reel line setup. Let's talk real quick about gear. Now, when we're punching the grass mats, you're always going to be trying to use as little weight as you possibly can to get through the mat, but get through it efficiently. Okay. Meaning, if I take it and I go and I take my lure and I throw it out on the grass mat and it just sits there, because again, guys, you got to remember this all woven together. It's just thick. Super, super thick. It will float a 1 ounce weight. That's how thick it is. So what I don't want to do is throw that out there and then have to jiggle it and work it and finally get it to go through, right? Because I'm cutting down my efficiency. Mm-hmm. What I want to do is I want to get through that grass mat as easy as I possibly can with the lightest weight. This time of year, as it's beginning to top out, it's still a little bit thinner. You can use an ounce, ounce and a quarter, ounce and a half. When it gets real thick in the fall, places like Nick or Chick, you could easily be up to 2 and a quarter ounces, which I know sounds extreme and crazy for bass fishing.
1 ounce feels heavy.
It is. You think about most of your lures that you throw, crankbaits, Texas rigs, all that, the most typically, unless you're fishing real deep, is going to be half ounce. And now, and the lowest end, we're at double that a weight.
Right.
So I get it. Guys, it's a whole different world of what you're used to and what to expect. But to try to maximize your speed, try to maximize your efficiency, because, again, this is going to be the fish of 100 flips. Because you're fishing a specific area and you're kind of working down, say, in your boat, typically they're going to be ganged up in an area. So usually if you catch one in that general vicinity, 50 yards up, 50 yards down, you're more than likely going to get you another bite because they're going to be ganged up this time of year. But there's really no way to go out and scan using your graphs to actually see the fish. What you can do, though, is you can look at specific areas where you got transitions or where you've got ditches and things, and that will help you kind of pinpoint where they're at, but it's not going to tell you exactly where they're at. So you're going to have to go out and do some punching. So
is this, we mentioned in the frog, and this is, like we said, full contact, but you're casting all day long. With punching, maybe not as many casts, but you're still working.
Yeah, well, you're actually going to do more casts. You're just not going to work it as long.
Oh, okay.
So when you're punching, you're going to punch basically about, when I flip that in, that's going to be typically 10 to 15 feet. I'm going to punch it in. I'm going to lift it up a couple times. Then I'm going to reel it right back in. Oh. Because here's the thing. You can't take that like you know normally and drag something through it. You can't go and you can't work it. Wherever you go in, that's your area to work, and you got to reel it back in. Because, again, this thing, we're talking 12 to 18 inches thick, top to bottom, and it's everywhere. And so it is, you got to take it, you got to flip it in, kind of bounce it up and down a couple, 3 times, reel it all the way back in, do it again. And you can do that over and over. And I get it. It sounds miserable and boring. And I'm not going to lie, if you're not getting bit, it can be pretty monotonous.
Well, some people like to just keep casting too, though.
Yeah, but what's great about it is that when you do get hit, they're mad at it. I mean, because think about it, they're sitting down here, everything's wonderful. All of a sudden, a big bait comes crashing through the mat, and it drops right in front of their face. And they don't hit it because they're hungry. They hit it because they're mad at it, or their brain kicks in, and they just naturally call it a reaction bite, a lot of different names, but they just instantly bite it. I like to say all the time, they don't have thumbs. They feel with their mouth. And so they turn around, and they'll bite it, and when they bite it, they hit it hard. And again, you're now dragging this thing out. And so with that whole full contact piece, I mean, it's four-wheel drive fishing, and it is a blast.
Well, and it kind of throws me off a little bit. When you say punch, I think, man, you're driving it. But you're flipping and letting the weight punch through, correct?
Correct.
So the weight is your punch, but you're not really casting a full motion cast. You're dropping it in.
You're literally just underhand chili dipping. All right,
that's a golf term. I chili dipped that one. Right?
Yeah. So think of it. Remember, as when you first started, if you ever fished with a cane pole, right? You get that pendulum swing, and that's how, you couldn't take it and just throw it overhand. You just kind of swing it out there and let that momentum or the pendulum swing your bobber and your little worm. Same exact motion.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's that same underhanded pitch, and it's going to go up, and then it's the weight will punch through that grass mat and get your soft plastic lure down at the bottom, and then we'll bite it.
And you're trolling slow, right along the edges. Right?
Very slow, and I'm taking it, I'm chili dipping it out there, I'm bouncing it a couple times, reel it back in, and then I'm going to go down 5 or 6 feet as that natural troll or the current's bringing me, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again. And again, I hear you. It sounds miserable, but it is so much fun. Once you get in the rhythm, once you get the right gear, you're not fighting it all day.
Yeah. Found the right weight.
Yeah. Yep. It's perfect. All right, so let's talk gear. I know we're going to run out of time real quick. So,
sure. Yep. Man, time is flying.
It's because of my amazing teacher is what it is. My unbelievable, Todd, make sure you put that in there. My unbelievable ability to talk. All right, so we talked real quick about weights. So just for guys that are watching this is a 2-ounce weight. Honestly, this is where I spend most of my time.
Start there?
I don't know if I start there. I try to start smaller, but where I typically end up is the 2-ounce.
You might as well start there.
Yeah, you should. Another cool tip that you could do is that, so this weight is pretty expensive. This weight alone is like $10 to $11. Just the weight. Wow. A tungsten. I'm using tungsten, by the way.
Oh, big money here.
Yeah. Well, here's a great tip for you for guys that don't want to go out and spend that want to have to use more of what they have. So this is a 1-ounce tungsten weight. And they're about, let's just say, $5 or $6. But what you can do is you can use your 1-ounce weight. If it works, it's enough weight, then you're perfect. You get into a scenario where you need more weight, just invert them.
Oh, yeah.
Have 2 and invert them. Okay. So stack one with the point facing down and the other one on top of it with the point facing up.
Okay.
So now
you got 2.
Now I have 2.
2-ounce.
So,
okay, cool.
Great little tip. Now, some of the gear that you're going to need. You're going to need, first and foremost, the bobber stopper.
Okay.
All right. So what you want to do is you want to peg this weight down. You want that whole system being extremely compact.
Okay.
Texas rig, you don't want that weight being way up here because you get that separation and it'll wear you out. It's just not any fun fishing. So take a bobber stopper and peg it. Won't go through how to do that. YouTube, it's super easy.
Yeah.
A couple of additions that you can add to it is you can add what's called a punch skirt. All right, so this adds a round silicone skirt that makes it look and flare much like a jig. So it's just another addition instead of just having, your creature bait or your crawl bait punching through there. You can put a skirt, adds a little bit more flare. Another thing that you can do is you can add my favorite red bead. And so
red,
a great way to use, and great reason you'll use a bead is 2 things. One, you will get their knot will be protected. Right, okay. So your weight, instead of banging against the knot, it's going to be, hitting on this bead. What also is cool is it's hitting that bead. You can't hear it. There's a little click sound. Kind of what we talk about consistently is we're adding another layer onto that. So now we're using sight and sound to attract the fish. So when it comes to hooks, you need big, beefy hooks designed exactly what you're doing. If not, you get a flimsier hook, you're going to get a lot of hook bend, and you lose fish. So BMC has one called Heavy Duty Flipping. which this one I have not tried yet, but it's a brand new one by Gamakatsu. So if you're familiar with fishing, Gamakatsu has kind of been the pinnacle of hooks.
Been around a while.
Yeah, long time. They just came out with this one called the Super Heavy Cover Hook. It's exactly what it's designed for, is what we're talking about, punching. So depending on your size of bait, you'll use typically 3/0, 4/0, or 5/0. I start with a 5/0, and I start with a 4-inch bait. And we'll talk real quick about baits, but that's my starting point. Now, if you're not getting bit and you need to downsize, go from a 4-inch bait down to a 3-inch bait. Typically, all crawls have a bait, what's called a baby version. It's just a shrunk-up version. And you turn around and you'll drop your hook size. So you go to 3-inch bait. I typically go to a 4 or 3/0 hook. And again, you're making sure everything matches.
Yeah.
You don't want a small bait and a massive hook.
Right.
Or vice versa. You don't want a real big piece of soft plastic and not have a big enough hook.
Miss that bite. Yeah.
Yeah. So my two favorites. So my go-to every time is the Missile D-Bomb. If you guys can see that or not, Missile D-Bomb is hands down my favorite. I love them. They're super soft, great colors, and they're just a staple when it comes to punching. Everybody knows the D-Bomb. Great. Only time, some of the times I'll change up is if they're a little bit more aggressive. I will go to this bait, which is probably one of the more popular flipping baits, which is the Berkeley Havoc Pit Boss. It's a 4-inch bait.
Okay.
Has a lot of action. What I mean by action is the appendages move a lot. And so when they're real aggressive, you're trying to get even more attention. This is a great one. So typically, again, this is me because, again, my favorite thing to do, I'll have two setups, exactly the same. And
let's face it, you'll have 20 rods.
Let's be honest. I'll have 3 setups. One will be a more aggressive bait. The other one will be the D-Bomb. And then I'll have one setup with a lighter weight and a smaller creature bait on it. And that's, again, I'm looking for every scenario and figure out why I'm not getting bit. So
yeah,
go check it out. Go try it. And again, I know it's not something you normally would do, and I know it's very specific. But for guys that live in that part of the country, or for bass fishermen that have not tried it before, it's a fantastic bite. It's super aggressive, super fun. And what's great is if you got a boat, both anglers, you and your buddy, can do it side by side. It's a lot of fun, a lot of conversation. Just go out and try it.
Yeah.
Two quick things. First and foremost, always keep it straight. Your faith, your family, your fishing, those 3 things are near to dear to all of our hearts because you can't have one without the other. The second thing is, hey, go check me out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Jason Holland Fishing. We've got, of course, some of these videos on there. Got some other stuff that we're doing from an educational standpoint. Love to connect with you. You got questions, man, shoot them out.
Awesome.
I don't have somebody answering questions. I'm answering them.
It's you.
It's me.
All you.
Oh, good or bad, guys, it's all me. So thanks to TWA to having me. Thanks to you. Thanks, Mr. Don, who's not here. Thanks for the guy that makes it all happen, Todd, in the back.
Yeah.
So, appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you for being with us. As always, it's a fun show. Great information. We could have been here a lot longer, but that's why we have to bring you back for some more later.
Come on.
All right. Well, this is Tennessee WildCast. We thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember to like us out there, subscribe to us, and thank you to our radio partners out there and tuning in there. So anyway, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.